Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to start our AQ40 boss guides with the Prophet Skeram. The Prophet Skeram is the first fight of AQ40, the long-awaited raid we've all been looking forward to, and he can offer a significant challenge to guilds who are not organized and to players who aren't watching their backs when arcane explosions go out. This guide is going to help you do more DPS and be cognizant of the different mechanics that Skeram does so that you can A, not die, and B, do the most damage possible on this fight. Before we get started, everybody, if you could drop a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be great. We just hit 1,000 subscribers and I'd love to keep that number growing. Thank you so much for subscribing, everybody, and for the love so far. So that said, let's get into the guide. Before we get into the hardcore mechanics, we'll explain those during the fight. Let's talk about what you should be thinking about before the fight even starts. So for this fight, I have elected to take off my Savage Glad chain, take off some of my really low stamina pieces, and put on some PvP gear so that I have more stamina, more health, and more armor, because my guild's really good. We're a good guild, but we're still learning this fight. So there's arcane explosions that go out. There are other things that go out. And so a couple of ways you can prepare for this fight is that I personally have elected to be a little bit more chunkier in terms of my gear as opposed to my normal glass cannon set that I was using in BWL that I really don't have as much stamina, all those good things. If you've recently crafted Titanic leg plates, those are probably not the best piece to wear on this fight if your guild is still learning it. First off, just let me say, as we're talking about things before the fight, that there's two different ways you can approach this fight. If you're in a normal guild or a guild that's going through progression, you can elect to use stamina food, Zanza pots over roids, more thick tank oriented gear, more stamina gear in order to increase your survivability, because the mechanics of this fight, the arcane explosions, the earth shocks, can do a lot of damage. Your healers are already panicking trying to heal tanks, and you can get chunked down very quickly. So making yourself a little bit more thick boy status really might help you survive. It might gimp your DPS a bit, but you'll see that I wore thick boy gear and still did a ton of damage on this fight, so it's not going to completely screw you. However, of course, wearing your full glass cannon set, focusing purely on just damage, you're going to be able to do more damage, but you're also going to be at a very high likelihood of dying if your guild isn't 100% perfect. Now, on the other side of the coin, if you're in a guild that practice on like a private server or all those types of things, and you've never even seen an arcane explosion because they get interrupted on cooldown, and it's a very clean, fast, focused fight, yeah, throw your normal gear on, try to do as much damage as possible. This guide can't say for certain what you should do. You need to take into account how your guild raids, how your guild operates itself, and then make the decision for yourself whether or not you want to play it safe or go for the moon. So also, before we start, it's worth mentioning that going for a Parse on this fight is going to have some RNG associated with it, because I don't get mind controlled at all in this attempt, and I do a ton of damage. However, on my first venture into AQ, I got mind controlled during execute phase, and I had Death Wish and Wreck popped, and I got owned and damaged. So there's going to be some RNG as to parsing on this boss. You're going to, really hope that you don't get mind controlled, or that you get mind controlled when like there's a split and there's not a lot of, there's not a lot for you to do anyway, or maybe you get the mind control wears off very quickly. So that's going to be, up to the RNG gods. We all know how that feels. So let's go ahead and start the fight here. Now, I'll be pausing quite a bit as we go through the fight, just so that we know what's going on. So the poll has been sent. We all run in and we get on the focus priority main target, Prophet Skeram. You let your main tank get aggro as usual, and you get into your rotation. Now, you'll see it right there. Just a little thing that I did that maybe you guys don't know. I held using Whirlwind, using Heroic Strike, using anything until I could get my first Bloodthirst off. Everyone should know this by now, but you should never be using an ability other than Bloodthirst when Bloodthirst is available to be used. Build the rage to use Bloodthirst, then use your other abilities. Keep Bloodthirst and Whirlwind on cooldown, Heroic Strike when you can. Be very cognizant of threat in this fight. I will show you during the fight, every time the Prophet Skeram splits, he's going to drop threat. So if you like your world buffs, if you don't want to die, one thing you should not do directly after a split is intercept over, Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, Heroic Strike Q, get a bunch of crits. The tank needs to fight you for threat. Maybe you're getting attacked by the boss, maybe an arcane explosion gets off, you're GG, you're gonna die. So be very careful about threat. There's going to be 3 targets, maybe even more if you get additional splits. Be careful, watch your threat meter. I will link Threat Classic 2 below. It is the best threat meter. Keep an eye on it. I always have it in the bottom left of my screen, and it's become muscle memory just to watching it. So watch your threat meter. First fight of the boss. First fight of the instance. We've been in here for 5 minutes. Don't die and lose your world buffs now. So there's the Arcane Explosion. One of the key mechanics is going to be the Arcane Explosion. Now, all of his copies and Skeram himself do Arcane Explosion, and it's on the melee, usually the rogues, but honestly, if you see an Arcane Explosion about to go off, you need to pummel it. This is one of the first few fights to where if people don't interrupt these Arcane Explosions, they're going to kill the raid. They damage everyone and creates a panicked sense for your healers. They try healing everybody, and you may not get a heal. So usually your rogues, classes with faster interrupts, are assigned to kicking these Arcane Explosions, but if you see one about to go off or you're assigned to it, make sure that you are able to do that and you know what button your pummel's on. You need to be kicking these Arcane Explosions. Yeah, it's not a DPS ability and this is a Parse guide, but it's also about staying alive and helping your raid as well, as opposed to just doing more damage personally. One thing when it comes to interrupting Arcane Explosions and Earth Shocks is that you need to know where your target cast bar is. I, for this raid, have moved my target cast bar pretty much into the middle of my screen. So you'll see it says Arcane Explosion moving across the screen. It's casting. When it gets, when 0.9 seconds are up, it's going to go through. I know that I have that much amount of time to interrupt. I think a lot of people are playing with UIs to where they don't even have a target cast bar on their screen, or they don't know what it is and they're not paying attention to it. For this fight specifically, and other fights, and just being a better player in general, figure out, depending on what UI you're using, where your target cast bar is, and put it in a spot to where you can see it during the craziness of a fully world buff classic raid. So you'll see that one actually went out. One thing that I have done before this fight is that I pre-potted a greater arcane protection potion. If you're in a guild that is having Arcane Explosions go out and people are still learning the skill of interrupting, pre-pot a greater arcane protection potion and then use it again when it goes off, like halfway through the fight, or you see that it goes down. Very important to do that, guys. It's very worth the investment, and unfortunately, you won't get that mighty rage pot off, or you won't get your lip off, but you will help you survive, and that is key. So just like how you would do it on Fire Mop or Veil, pre-potting a fire protection potion, use arcane protection potions on this fight. It will greatly increase your survivability, especially if you only get a few Arcane Explosions and they happen at bad times. Having that shield up is going to be key. So that is very important. So true fulfillment is going to be what we just saw happen. Is true fulfillment just went on my class lead Navigant, and that's going to be a mind control. So someone's going to get mind control. That person's going to need to be sheathed. This is the RNG aspect of this fight when it comes to parsing, is going to be, hoping that doesn't happen to you. It may happen to you, it may not. Don't get mad. There's nothing you can do about it. Just know that, unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. So, hopefully you don't get, you don't pop wreck and kill your whole raid once you get mind controlled. So there's another Arcane Explosion, gets interrupted. We're getting to 75%, and now he's casted Summon Images. Now, he's going to split, he's going to teleport, and most importantly, all of the threat is going to be wiped on all of the ads, so that you're going to see, there goes the threat wipe. He just summoned the images, he teleported. What needs to happen now is that your raid leadership needs to mark which are the kill targets, and you need to get to that kill target as fast as possible. Or if you've been late to that kill target and you see it's about to die, you need to switch your DPS to another ad that's up, and you need to make sure that you're not going above your off tanks in threat. You need additional off tanks in this fight. So that may mean there's someone who hasn't tanked a lot of fights stepping up to tank, and their threat gen may not be as good as you're used to with your main tank. So if you want to live, if you want to bring your world buffs to Fankaris and all the other fun fights in this raid, don't blow up a ad as soon as it's been split. Keep an eye on your threat meter. Now, another thing that you can do when switches happen, you'll see he immediately comes down because someone's aggroed him, is if you want to, if you can stay under your off tank and get away with this, you can whirlwind and cleave on these ads. You can even rip a sapper if you want to, as long as that's not going to make you pull threat. You'll see that if you look at my swing timer up there, it turns blue when I heroic strike, it turns green when I have cleave queued. I queue a few cleaves because I know that I'm not pulling aggro, and I can also get away with it and do more damage there. And you'll also see that I've risen to the top of the meters here. I haven't really done anything too spectacular, just doing my rotation and playing it safe. Yeah, so you'll see I get a few cleaves off. There goes an arcane explosion. That should have been interrupted. And you'll see that threat has been reset, and we're having some issue getting the ads to the right places. The skull target gets marked. We get right on him. And one thing I've personally seen, and I don't know whether or not this is 100% correct, is that I keep blowing my interrupts on true fulfillment. I don't even know if you can interrupt true fulfillment. Let me know in the comments below if you guys know whether or not you can. It seems that you can't, because I used my pummel on that true fulfillment, and it got Darth Moon still got mind controlled. So I'm not sure whether or not you can interrupt that. So don't let the true fulfillment bait out your interrupt when you need to be saving it for the arcane explosion. So yep, I got the arcane explosion there. And this is really just a matter of, once you get through those mechanics, it's really just all about doing a regular rotation. See, he hit 50% and he summoned images again. So at 75, 50, and 25%, as a warrior trying to do the most damage possible in this fight, you need to be thinking about, how am I going to get to the priority kill target fast enough? And also, am I looking at my threat meter so that I do not pull threat and die? So, because once again, remember, there is a threat wipe here, so be careful. So he's teleported. I get on this guy real fast as I run up to the kill target. That is perfectly acceptable, guys. As long as you're not pulling threat, you can rip a cleave, you can rip a whirlwind, you can throw a heroic strike out, maybe a bloodthirst on a target as you run to the other target. Keep your uptime up. Don't just mindlessly run from point A to point B, ignoring opportunities for you to do damage. Do as much damage as you can without pulling aggro on all of the ads available. Now, there are some niche sort of things here to where you wouldn't want to do that. If right now, for some reason, the main target, the main Prophet Skeram, was at 26% and there were still ads up that needed to be killed, don't do any damage to Skeram, because if you drop him below to the 25%, he's going to split again. Because remember, our split thresholds are 75%, 50%, and 25%. So be careful if you're in that opportunity, if you're in sort of that ballpark. But as long as your majority of your raid is switching to the ads when they spawn, they don't have a ton of health and you can burn them down pretty quickly. So there's an arcane explosion that needed to be interrupted. I was a little slow there, and I've popped another arcane pot. I pulled up my inventory to do it, and now we're burning down the ads. And you'll notice that we've had a few people die. There's a lot of ads up. We've got someone mind controlled. If you're counting on your healers, if you're wearing a glass cannon set in a situation like this to keep you up, good luck, my friends, good luck. You need to be doing everything you can do to heal yourself. Use lock cookies, use potions, be wearing thick gear until your guild has this fight at a point to where it's just super mind-numbingly easy. If you're already there, good for you. If you're like, I would imagine, a lot of guilds and there's still a bit of craziness in this fight, be careful, set yourself up for success with your thick gear set. So we get onto the main target here. He's going to be dropping to another split here in 25%. And I think another thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that sometimes he'll teleport independent of the splits, and he's going to drop threat again when he does that as well. So be careful. Watching threat is an important aspect of this fight. We get that arcane explosion interrupted. We're getting to 25%. There's about to be another split. There's the split. See, I've got a cheeky cleave queued up. One of the mechanics that you haven't seen a lot in this fight, but is very pertinent, is that until someone runs in melee range and starts getting the guy's aggro, he's going to earth shock people, and that earth shock hurts. I've had some of our top DPS in my guild on previous weeks die to that earth shock because people aren't getting to the boss in time and getting within melee range. So very important that you split and you're very mobile to the priority kill target quickly. And also, this fight's really just a lot on your tanks coordinating and working well. So you'll see I'm like at half health right here. I should have lock cookied. One thing I'm personally working on is that it's always like the first fight of the instance that you've got all this coiled up energy and you're just, you know, you've gotten all, with the way Classic works with world buffs, you've gotten all your world buffs. You're a ball of energy, you know, you're like a Super Saiyan 8 as a warrior, and you need to just stay calm, focus on what you're doing, and use all the tools you have to make sure that you're not going to die. So as we enter execute phase on the main kill target, once he's under 25%, you don't need to worry about any further splits. It's just a simply kill boss, burn him. If you've been able to keep if you don't need to arcane pot, this is where you would mighty rage pot or lip if you're going to pull aggro. Actually, like, his main attacks don't hit that hard, so I don't think pulling aggro will get you one shot, but as a rule of thumb, just never try and pull aggro, guys. It's just execute phase at this point. He's going to teleport, I think, before we can really finish execute phase. We go ahead and we get on, we intercept onto that platform, and we keep execute phase going. I actually forget for a second that we're in execute phase on that guy, and I use like whirlwind and bloodthirst instead of Xe. But you'll see that this fight is really all about keeping a cool head in all of the chaos, and also using AoE abilities when you can to do more damage without pulling thread. So I finished the fight with 603 DPS. What this fight is essentially is layering on an additional level of responsibility to the melee alongside trying to kill the boss as fast as possible. So not only now are you trying to you know, do as much damage as possible, but you've got a little bit more responsibility in terms of getting interrupts out, in terms of choosing your gear strategically so that you don't die. But if you can do all those things successfully, you're going to see good numbers on this fight, and if Breastplate of Annihilation will ever drop, some good loot. And that's it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been my Prophet Skeram DPS/Parse guide. You will see better numbers and less death as the weeks go on. But as you learn, take the right steps, do the right things to do the most damage possible while keeping yourself alive. Once again, guys, if you can drop a like and subscribe to the video, there are more guides for every fight of AQ coming up soon. I look forward to bringing the content to you guys, and look forward to many more weeks of smashing my head into AQ 40 until I'm a complete purple decked out bug killing lord. Everyone out there, stay safe, stay fun, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace.